Hello and welcome to the Play It Forward podcast presented by PeacePlayers, the podcast where we lift up voices and stories of people working in their communities and networks to promote peace and equity. My name is Chinny and Emmett, and I am your host. When I tell you that I am more than thrilled and excited, I'm going to talk to you now about today's episode. We will be speaking to a phenomenal guest on the transformative power of sports and the journey of a life that serves something greater than itself, a life that recognizes the power of sports as a conduit to self-realization and positive social change. I got that from your TED Talk. I watched it 7 times over. But that being said, I cannot go further without introducing my amazing co-host, Emmett Shepard, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Hold for the applause. There's no applause. That's okay. What's going on, listeners? How are we today? My name is, like Chinny said, Emmett Shepard. I am the co-host and coordinator to the Play It Forward podcast. And Chinny, I'm kind of, usually I use the phrase jubilant with joy, and that's not the feeling. I'm kind of shell-shocked with today's guest. This is a person who we'll dive into later in the episode, but somebody who's impacted me since I was in 10th grade English class. And we'll talk more about that later, but I'm still kind of shocked. This is like a mythical being in my mind. I can't believe I get to talk to this person. So why don't you tell the people who this mythical being is, really?
Wow, listeners and viewers, I'm telling you that we have a great show, but normally we have a huge introduction for our guests, but for this gentleman, I believe more is less. Our special guest is arguably one of the most influential figures in basketball on the continent of Africa. We're talking about the president of the Basketball African League, the vice president and managing director of NBA Africa, the founder of SEEDS, which is Sports for Education and Economic Development, and so much more, but mainly the godfather of basketball in Africa. Listeners and viewers, get out of your chairs, start clapping your hands for standing ovation for a man who has changed and empowered the lives of hundreds of young people through the transformative power of sport. Please welcome Mr. Amadou Gallo Fall. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Wow, Chinny. Well, thank you. You guys are awfully generous, and I'm really grateful to be here, to have an opportunity to have a conversation and with your listeners. And congratulations again on the podcast and all you've been doing. It's funny listening to you talk about the TED Talk. I will admit I've never watched the TED Talk because I will tell you that was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life. And actually, before going on there, I tried to find all kinds of excuses to pull out of it because I was like, what did I just do? Except to go and do this. But thank you very much, and just having me, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, you're
Amadou, before we get into the conversation, there is one thing that we tend to do on these episodes. That is how you say break the ice. It's our annual icebreaker. Doc's going to fill in with some theme music for that. But what it is just a way to break the ice before we sort of dive into a pretty in-depth conversation. And I'm actually incredibly curious with your answer to today's icebreaker question. Chinny, should I just hit him with it, or do we?
Yes, and he's kind of being modest, Amadou. I just want you to know that he is the icebreaker king. Sorry,
or queen.
Say queen there, or queen.
Yeah, but I can be queen.
Whatever you like of the world. So yes, go ahead and just jump right into it.
Okay, so Amadou, if you could have a billboard that millions of people could see every day, what would that message be on your billboard?
Africa first.
Ooh, I love it. Simple. Yes.
And what's
I saw it just recently also, and I didn't invent it. I was offered a book recently by the founder of EcoBank, and that was his whole motto. And I think, it's like in everything we do, it's about showcasing and highlighting and, really presenting to the world what Africa can offer.
Right, right. I was wondering if you got that from your brother, who you said was brilliant, Mamadou. So we'll talk about him later.
I got a lot of things from him, but not this one.
Okay.
Well done.
It's an absolute privilege to have my friend here on the show with us today, but not everyone may know who you are and what you've done for the basketball community, especially the way you've truly revolutionized the game in Africa, where the most accessible game in Africa normally is soccer, right? It's easy to have a little can or something to kick. And, you know, I heard you say, put 2 bricks down and that's your goal. And so for those of you who don't know, Amadou, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how you got involved with basketball?
I'm from Kaolack in Senegal. This is where I was born, and I grew up in Senegal until after high school. And then, you know, as far as a basketball background and how I get into it, it's really, there was not, you know, a pathway to that led to that. It's one of those things that happens, right? And I think just like with many cases, many stories across Africa, you know, in my case, we all play football, play soccer, you know, sport is present in everyday life all across the continent. And obviously the most accessible sport is football. So that's what you start with, you know, kicking a ball seems natural. And this is why I am extremely passionate to make sure that kids also, you know, have the opportunity to use their hand with a different kind of ball. So, you know, went through high school in Senegal, started playing the game very late with the club, Dakar University Club. And by the way, coincidentally, the Dakar University Club is the team that is going to represent Senegal in the BAL this season. They won the championship in Senegal, and I had nothing to do with that. So you know, when I get into the game, and all my encounters and where it had in a very, you know, short amount of time taken me to, I met Kevin Lineberger, who actually lives in Washington, D.C. still, who was a Peace Corps volunteer, who facilitated me going to the University of the District of Columbia. Again, thanking the Firebirds, because I was honored and privileged to be inducted in the Athletic Hall of Fame in February 2020, right before the pandemic hits, and you know, the whole world changed. But I had a chance to go there and be part of an incredible ceremony with my coach, actually, George Leftwich, you know, in the same year. So I'm saying all this because that place will always be special. That's why I got a scholarship to go and play basketball and continue my studies. And I think being in DC and meeting people like Coach John Thompson at Georgetown University, and Coach Thompson was a high school teammate of George Leftwich at Carroll High School. I remember Coach telling us and even showed us some black and white videos in his basement about what a great team they had. I think they won some incredible number of games in a row. Best high school team in the DC metro area. So DC and the whole experience there opened my eyes, you know, in the power of sport, you know, as a conduit, as a tool for really, you know, many endeavors. That these are things you don't grow up plotting, or, you know, because I had no exposure to that whole student athlete concept, right? Until I got to DC and see how sport was so organized in university on what it meant and what it represented for the communities and alumni who went to a particular school, that convening power that this sport had, and basketball in particular. It just got me thinking in a lot of ways, and ultimately shaped, you know, the journey and where I am today. But this was not, something that I could fathom, but I was intent on just making sure, I always knew that what drove me was impact,
Right.
and impact to communities, myself first, and then whatever I could do to impact others, and sport provided an incredible avenue.
That is awesome. First of all, congratulations. 2020 kind of like everybody is just can't remember what happened there, but the fact that you were inducted into the Hall of Fame is amazing. And I just love your story. I love how you use the power of sports to provide just resources for youth on the continent. And you kind of went over this, but I want to give Mamadou, your brother, some props, because he brought you a basketball home one summer when you were young, and that was the first time you had it, and you said you fell in love with it. So for Mamadou, your brother, if he's listening, or if he's just around, that's for you, for creating this legend that we see right in front of you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Emmett.
Yeah, no, I love the quote, impact is what drove me. I think that's like really important. And before I dive into my story, was when you say, impact drove you, was that something at an early age was always instilled in you, or was there a sort of more concrete moment in your adolescence or young adult life where that was sort of the driving force, if that makes sense?
That's a good question.
I think it's really about observations. Generally, the people that I was more fascinated by or interested in, their stories, or I was impressed with, were all mostly people who shared something in common. It's really, being interested in doing things that are bigger than themselves. When you think about the struggles for independence in Africa, for example, all those, writers, the generation of intellectuals and people from all walks of life, highly educated in the West, who took on the mission to, say that colonization was not, not only wasn't right, but they had an agency to do something about making sure it ended. And they did it through, literature, the arts, and, all kinds of other avenues to just debunk the myth of, these uncivilized Africans, to justify the colonial mission, so whether it's Senghor and all those people in the negritude movement, and, Joe Chinua Achebe and all those, big writers who actually took on the task of, highlighting the originality of the African cultural identity, and they went and organized, and they galvanized, and they motivated people to stand up, and eventually through many different forms, the independence followed, right? Yeah. So, and I was always thinking that, we have to use our biggest assets in Africa. And for my generation, I thought the conversation was not going to be any longer about proving that actually, we are worthy of something, but it was about building whatever we think we are worthy of. And it just happened that in my journey through sport, I saw that there was something really special to leverage, because it has allowed me to go to school and get an education. And, I had the opportunity to replicate that opportunity with others. And then you start to think, there's really something bigger than just myself, where I could apply, the transformative power of basketball, whether to brand our countries, our continent, and use a natural resource that we have. Because when I saw how big basketball was in the States and sports in general, whereas across the continent, it was probably just seen as another recreational activity. But, here you're seeing an industry, being born around, sports that is employing people, that is building infrastructure, and that is really leading conversation. So that's really, why so many, thoughts and interests took shape very early on, and a determination to make sure that, I used my exposure to basketball and the little platform I had by having the opportunity to come to the US, to be in a sporting communities, all the people I know, to just highlight something we have in abundance is incredible athletic talent, just like we have incredible raw materials under the
resources, yes.
soil. So how do we leverage that? How do we add value, transform it, and make sure that the world sees it and appreciates it, and that it's become valuable for the continent.
Absolutely.
So yes, those are the inspiration. And my brother Mamadou was very instrumental in exposing me to some of those readings very early.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with militantism, but these were just people who were Africans who took on, the mission to do something about something, that was impacting their communities negatively.
Yeah. Wow.
No,
powerful.
that idea that it's well, not even idea. It sounds just like you were incredibly observant at a very young age too, and just like was very conscientious of the world around you and the people who were leading the steps forward to make an impact also, like you said. And that's a good transition to sort of what I've wanted to talk about since I was in 10th grade of high school, which was
I'm very curious, Emmett, to hear about the story.
So I randomly was perusing the streaming services of Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime in 10th grade, and I found this documentary called Elevate, and I had no idea what it was, but it was basketball related, and I have a internal voice that says if there's anything basketball related in media, you have to watch it, even if it has no star reviews or anything, which is not what Elevate was. Elevate was like 4 out of 5 stars, very high, and I was upset at myself that I hadn't heard of anything like this. And I watched it and was instantly gravitating towards one particular character, and that was Dethe Fall in the documentary. I don't know if you remember Dethe, but he for some reason just I was transfixed with his journey, his story, and the way in which it all happened. And I had to write a research paper in 10th grade for my English class. It could be about anything I wanted, anything. And some people, did the boring stuff of like agriculture or farming or whatever. I don't know. And I was very curious, sort of more so about seeds, but also, that when I was in 10th grade, globalization of basketball just started being a big thing. Like I think David Stern of the NBA started to really push that idea of looking for talent, not just in the United States, like all around the world. And sort of what avenues that and doors opened for those types of people, both negatively and positively. And I thought the documentary did a great job of showing, the opportunities that people like Dethe Fall get by going to schools like South Kent, but also the isolation that could cause for some people as well. And so I had to write this 25 research paper. I did all this research. And I actually ended up getting to interview Dethe because he was coaching at NMH, which is a small prep school near my hometown, as well as the headmaster, Andrew Vandals, at South Kent. Mm-hmm. And I got to talk to them, and Dethe was like meeting LeBron James. I was like, oh my God, can I have your autograph kind of thing? And I remember I was so nervous. And I was like shaking, and I was like trying to ask, and he like put his hand on my shoulder, and he was like, "It is okay. Take your time. Take your time. It is okay. You're doing great. You're doing great." Long-winded story for just sort of, can you tell people who don't know what is Seeds and sort of what was your idea behind it? And just fill us in on what that is that I keep referring to, kind of.
Wow, that's a hell of a story, and just so Dethe now is in the front office with the Denver Nuggets. So and I know he was an assistant coach at Grand Canyon University. So I just saw him recently at the AfroBasket in Rwanda. So he's on his way, and he's he's really growing in the business. So you're a very good talent scout, So we'll credit you for his career, and I'll make sure he remembers that. And another parallel I see in your story where you're saying that you had to do a research paper, and this is how it started. I started Seed actually in 1998 because I had a cup of coffee at the MBA program at Georgetown University, and just in one semester, then I got the opportunity to go to Dallas to start there as get a foot in the door. So I went. I obviously I don't have an MBA because I just spent one semester there, but we had an assignment also in a class where we were asked to form an organization and to demonstrate how it will benefit your community.
Wow.
So for me, it was about trying to figure out what my passions were, and my passions were basketball and education in Africa, so it was really about looking at how to combine those passions to serve my community, which is, not only Senegal, but the whole of Africa. So this is how we came up with sports for education and economic development, because the realization was that, we had to, for Africa to have any chance of, development, and I'm talking about sustainable development, which we're still struggling with, but, I think there is a lot of, positive momentum and a bright outlook.
Absolutely.
The youth is our biggest asset, because it's the youngest continent on Earth. And we have to make sure that we focus on educating this youth and, making sure that we instill the right values, making sure that they grow up with a sense of consciousness about responsibility to really take matters in their own hand and build their own communities. And sports speaks the language of the youth. You don't have to sell it to young people, and we felt that education was the key there. How do you combine education and sport to put it in the service of the efforts towards socioeconomic development? This is how, Seed was formed. And also, it's an outgrowth of my story. I, got into the game, and very rapidly, it showed me, how combining your natural God-given talent, when identified with education, can lead you to, achieve, something for yourself, and then for others. And this is why when you talk about Elevate, the story was around 4 young people from the Seed program that we started in the academy that we started in 2002. We, started the foundation in 98, but the school started in 2002. So they follow the story of 4 young men, and Deche was one of them, and how they basically did what I did, followed those footsteps. And then, they all moved on to get their college degrees, and they are working in different walks of life. And that's the story, really, using sports as a tool, as a conduit to, it could be, diplomacy, it could be to promote and be a megaphone for societal issues. And all in the end, it's about really growing, creating growth opportunities for young people, and ultimately for the community at large.
Yes, because I know we have so many questions, but I don't know if you want to go into just a more relaxing, fun thing that we do here, Amadou, that I'm sure you'll enjoy. And I put a very special question in there, and I'm sure you'll know which one that is. And I'm definitely interested in your answer. But we have this amazing thing we like to call the lightning round. Insert sound here.
Yeah.
And Emmett, do you want to tell them a little bit about the lightning round and what we do during the lightning round?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do very simple. I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions that are very short, and we're looking for an answer between 3 and 20 seconds. So a little bit of a range, but yeah. That's not actually the key part. There is a right and a wrong answer in me and Chinny's eyes.
Absolutely.
In all these. So
Absolutely.
whatever answer
Yes.
you give, we'll judge heavily for. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Chinny, you got the clock, you got the pad.
I
and
do
paper
have the
ready?
clock. I have my pen. We're excited. It's light and fun. Just enjoy yourself. All right, Emmett, all you.
Okay, Amadou, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Would you rather score a game winner at home or away?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Either way.
Either way.
I would rather score a game winner.
Okay.
Yeah, just score a game
I mean, he's a
winner.
legend, so we'll just take it.
Yeah, we'll let
take it.
that. We'll let that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Fine, whatever. It's off to a great start. Okay. What was the last thing that made you smile, Amadou?
Just a trip back home from Yaoundé last year.
Very nice. That's awesome.
Coffee or tea?
Even though he already answered it, yeah.
Mhm.
Coffee.
Oh, coffee.
I'm
Okay.
drinking tea because this is the tea we have after lunch. But yeah, I'm
No,
a big
coffee. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay.
Morning bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Mhm. Cats or dogs?
Oh, neither.
No, you can't say neither. You have to pick
Okay,
one. You
dog,
must.
dog.
Spring or autumn?
Spring.
Oh, nice.
Who makes the best, and Chinny, correct me if I'm wrong if I mispronounce this,
That's my
jollof
question
rice?
here.
Who makes the best jollof rice? Senegal, Nigeria, or Ghana?
Let us hear.
Senegal. Jollof
Oh,
is.
no.
I speak Wolof.
Chinny with the.
He knows the
Chinny-
truth is Nigeria, but it's fine. We'll take Senegal. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Amadou, bungee jumping or zip lining?
Sure. If I have to take one, zip lining probably.
All right, white sand beaches or sky piercing mountains?
White sand beaches. I don't like heights.
Oh, okay.
Space travel or deep sea travel?
Sure. Depending on what the vehicle is. So if I'm in a submarine, probably deep sea.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right, $1 million or 3 wishes. And the only caveat here is you can't wish for more wishes or $1 million in those wishes if you were to choose wishes. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, say that again.
$1 million. You just get $1 million. Boom. Check. Give it to you. Or 3 wishes from a genie, Fairly Odd Parent. I don't know. Something.
Anything you want to happen, but you can't wish for more money and you can't wish for more wishes.
Yeah, but the wishes are going to be realized, right? So
Yes.
I'll go for the wishes.
Yeah. Very logical. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Superhero or supervillain?
Superhero.
Absolutely.
Singing or dancing?
There you
Dancing.
go. Oh, nice.
Dancing. Yes. Reading or writing?
Reading.
Okay, nice.
All right. Last meal that you had that made you go,
Wow.
wow.
I had this soul braise in Yaoundé 2 nights ago. Yes. It's
Yum.
the soul this big. You know the fish? The soul
Yes,
fish?
yes, yes.
Wow.
Oh, listen, when I
wow.
was in Tanzania, I'm sorry, my Nigerian family, the fish was chef's kiss. It was so good. Keto was,
Yeah, wait.
Keto picked
So,
all my fish. It was delicious.
Explain for the white people what kind of fish is this and what is
You know the soul. You know the soul. Like you have the Dover soul, right?
Okay.
This soul is from Yaoundé in Cameroon, and it's incredible. You know the way it's built and the sauces and with some aloko, plantain, acheke. So, anyway.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Plantain. You said the key to my heart, plantain. Okay,
All right,
sorry.
almost done. We're almost done. Last thing you learned from someone else.
Ooh, I love that.
Sorry?
Last thing you learned from someone else.
I learned a lot from Amadou every time I spoke to him. So
Oh, that's nice.
About this whole idea of, using the humanities like history and literature as a way to really impact development in the country.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with that conversation.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
Well,
walk away a scholar.
He writes, I read. So.
Right.
So this will be interesting. Who's one person who inspires you?
I can't keep saying Mamadou because he has a big ego too, though, so and I have to switch. The last person to inspire me is really stories, right? This is a number of stories from this season's Basketball Africa League, doing it in the pandemic, and stories from players. And I know you want one person, but it's just hard, Everything about, the event and the people who made it happen was inspiring in terms of just commitment and hard work and vision.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And then the last one I would do is one thing you want the listeners to remember from today's episode. If you could tell them one thing to remember, what would that be? It's
that sport is an incredible tool that we need to take seriously, and not so much. I'm pretty sure you in America, this is something that was discovered a long time ago, but beyond the entertainment value and how it can actually drive business, drive employment, drive infrastructure build in the African context.
Right. No, we're aware of that because we work for PeacePlayers and we use sports here the same way for social change and impact. And
by the way, many of Brandon and all those guys, I'm a big fan of very early on, and actually went to one of your programs in Durban in South Africa. Former colleague of mine, Chris Clooney, started out at PeacePlayers. So it's the same mission, and we used to have a lot of exchanges with your founders.
Fun fact, Emmett was actually a fellow in South Africa as well. He loves Africa. He's actually, we're going to induct him into, he's going to become a brother, African brother.
Amadou, well done. You got through it. Well done.
Yeah, you did a great job. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Just playing
you
along
guys
with
didn't
us.
understand that. I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware that it was part of the script. So
no, it's lightning round. It's fun, on your toes. It's on your toes. We can't reveal the lightning round questions beforehand.
Right. So we've touched on it just a tad bit before our listeners, because this is also a place where we want people to be educated. Can you elaborate on the difference between NBA Africa and the Basketball Africa League so that people just know it's not the same thing?
Well, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing, but it's all the same. In terms of NBA Africa is the business. It's the entity, the umbrella company that we moved to Africa in 2010 to open the office in Johannesburg in 2010 as part of the NBA's global extension, right? The NBA has offices, I think 14 other offices outside of North America. You have NBA China, NBA India, Latin America, and then NBA Africa was part of that. So, and the BAL is a culmination and an evolution of really NBA Africa. Is now an offshoot that is part of NBA Africa. As part of our effort to grow the game, when we first opened the office, that was the goal, to grow the game of basketball, make it accessible for people who want to participate in it, to participate, and also grow a fan base. Just make the NBA, have strong foothold on on the continent. And this is why all the efforts you've seen for the past decade, from 2010 to, you know, now when we launched the league, all those efforts have led to the BAL, which is the professional platform. Think about a pyramid. You know, you're working at the base to just popularize the sport, to massify it, and you know, then you know, you start to organize talent, you start to, you know, you launch academies, you bring the games, the Africa Games, and now what do you do with the massive amount of interest from a fan perspective,
Right.
also from a player talent that is developed. So we create this professional league, that's the tip of the pyramid, so that all that, you know, groundswell have this place to be showcased. So the Basketball Africa League is really the culmination of all the work that's been done by the NBA for many decades, even prior to opening the office. So now, you know, it's a professional league, and that is part of the NBA's families of other leagues. You have the NBA, you have the WNBA, you have the G League, you have 2K, and now you have the Basketball Africa League. That's the first time the NBA is partnering with FIBA to launch a league outside of North America, and the African continent has been identified as the market to do it, because this is where we see the biggest opportunity to grow it into one of the best professional basketball league in the world. So just in a nutshell, it is a professional league that we are going to, you know, grow and you know, drive interest in, and create a, you know, basketball product that is going to be incredibly attractive because of the amount of talent we have. We're going to attract top talent from all around the world. We're going to continue to retain talent on the continent and also develop top talent on the continent. So it is going to serve to showcase African talent. And as you know, Chinny, I'm sure you may have cousins or people and relatives who, you know, try to go to all other parts of the world to play basketball, and even including countries that are not that relevant in basketball. So now creating this professional environment is going to help attract that talent back. Many young people who finish college, like Emmett, you were talking about, Dechi, all those others, when they finish college, generally they stop because they may not be, most of them are not good enough to go to the NBA straight up, but they're looking to go to Europe and other places, and sometimes with visa issues and just a lack of, you know, spots. But now they can all go back home and play professionally in front of, you know, their families, and in the process help build an industry. So the BAL is that opportunity we have to continue to drive the NBA business on the continent. But it is part of, you know, the umbrella now is NBA Africa, that has the BAL, but then have other verticals that are all, you know, designed to grow the NBA business on the continent.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. And I know there's not a lot of people who know that, but just giving us that education, thank you so much. And I am excited and I'm thrilled, and I know that it's going to be just absolutely phenomenal. And I don't want to waste too much time. I know we only have a few more questions to ask, and I want to ask this question because you mentioned in our discussion that you discovered Chinua Achebe as an author. And I kind of want to associate a quote that I think best describes you, and that is his quote that reads, "One of the truest tests of integrity is its blunt refusal to be compromised." And I share that quote because, one, you've done it by bringing organized basketball to Africa on a scale that most people would have deemed impossible for our continent. You've created the ecosystem right there in Africa. And I know that so many people try to diminish the status of the continent, encourage this idea, like you mentioned before, of African inferiority, when the truth is, there is a lesson for everyone to learn in Africa. If you go to Africa, you'll find deep wisdom. And it's such an incredible region with insurmountable resources, impeccable intellect and great beauty. And you've done a great job of refusing to compromise your belief in Africa's richness and show the world that Africa is capable and has been capable. Second reason why I chose this quote to describe you is your indefatigable will to see Basketball African League, NBA Africa, Seeds, Basketball Without Borders, whatever you put your hand and your mind and your heart to, you make sure those things succeed, despite the setbacks, the no's, despite people's disbelief in the power of Africa. And you continually refuse to see anything other than the greatness and the true integrity and love for Africa. And I want you to talk about just how it's been that mentally and physically with just being able to just continue to fight along that journey. What has it been like for you? And I know we only have a few minutes, but what has that been like for you?
No, it's been an incredible journey, and it still is, because I think we still have a lot of work to do. I see myself as a builder. I like to start stuff and create, and all I see always is upside, you know? I mean, there's so much to do across the continent, again, the youngest continent, where everything is still to be built up. So having an entrepreneurial spirit and mind, and also being driven by impact and getting engaged in always trying to push boundaries and actually making inroads, despite of whatever the challenges are, whatever those challenges are, you see them as opportunities to grow, to learn, and to have further impact. Yeah. So for me, you know, this never feels like a burden, or even you know, with the work, it never feels like, you know, a chore, you know. So you're doing something you love, and what I said earlier in terms of, I feel blessed, right, to have the opportunity to combine all my passion, you know, and you know, to work on them on a daily basis. And at the same time, it's not just me. So along the way, you build teams, you know, you also, you know, have alliances, whether it's with people you recruit and identify and work with, or mentor. And, you know, when you see young people that, you know, are taking the path that you took, and that are going to take it even further than I could ever thought of, you know, when you look at, you know, Masai Ujiri at Toronto and winning a title and continuing to do amazing work, you know, that's really the goal. And there are others, you know, there are other young people coming through, and Luca Desta, you know, just, you know, moved to the Utah Jazz after coming from the Lakers, and previously, you know, was at the Mavs, having won 2 championships, by the way, you know, in a very short amount of time. And there's so many countless other, you know, people that are, you know, motivated or passionate about the same thing, and that have a commitment, you know, to, you know, taking the continent forward. My most inspiring, you know, example is really Luol Deng. You know, immediately after his retirement, he went back to South Sudan. He took over as president of the South Sudan Federation, and even coached the team to qualify them for the first time ever in the Afrobasket. And they made it to the quarterfinals in Kigali as a first-time attending participant. I mean, Paps Mensah-Bonsu, who's also very focused on bringing Ghana. And I always tell him, this is such a big sporting nation not to have any presence in basketball. So I always challenge Paps, and he's really doing amazing work. And you're going to start seeing, you know, Ghana in the basketball conversation on the continent. So for me, you know, it's just, you know, those different stories that are taking shape of young, dynamic Africans who are motivated by going back and having an impact where they're from, and at the same, and ultimately all these will aggregate, and the whole continent, you know, will benefit. The game of basketball will benefit, and so we'll always continue to champion the, you know, cause of sports as a driver and as a convener, and in Africa more than anywhere else, we are going to see big things on the horizon.
Absolutely. And you talk a lot about culture of collaboration, and that's what we do here at PeacePlayers. We bring people together, we collaborate for the bigger picture. And so I want to talk about something specific to me that I love. And I'm going to lead with this, and I'm sure you know who Kofi Annan is, who is the former and late great Secretary of the United Nations, who wrote, "When women thrive, all of society benefits and succeeding generations are given a better life." And the second one is, "There is no development strategy more beneficial to society as a whole, women and men alike, than the one which involves women as central players." And as I read this quote, I can't help but think of how you brilliantly planted seeds and made sure that they were watered, those seeds being youth, and that water being the desire and great love for empowering young people through sport, using sports as a vehicle for helping young people find their gifts and use those gifts to really secure a seat at the table. That's something I heard you say. And those seeds being youth, as I mentioned before, but specifically what I want to talk about is the seeds you've planted for young girls and women, to make sure that they're elevated in the game of basketball on the continent the same way boys are. And that's something that you have meticulously incorporated into the grain of seeds and your work in Africa. And I just want to know why. This is great. And I think that Messiah has done the same thing. And you guys are ahead of that spinning wheel. And I want to know why this was important to you, because it's important to me.
Just first of all, I think, by the way, I just came back from, I was mentioning Cameroon and Yaoundé. That was the site of the women's Afrobasket, which Nigeria won, I think, for the third time in a row.
Shout out to Nigeria.
So, yes, congratulations, and all the great work, and the great amount of talent that exists, in that country. Obviously a huge priority country, always has been for the NBA and the BAL today. So, and when we talk to people about the work being done at SEED, for me, there is no better place to showcase the impact than with our girls program. And even the way the program started, and I think I talked about this, we started with boys from 2002, I think, until it may have been 2009 or, maybe 2 years later. It's a group of young girls who always used to come to the gym, and they're there watching practice. And then when the boys are done, they go, they step on the court, they're playing, they're shooting, and then they will start to play their own, games. And then one day they literally cornered me. Hey, they want to talk to me. And it was like, well, we're all in school. We hear you talk about grades and, education, and they say we all have great, very good grades. We want to, be part of the program. So, and they essentially, and I always say this, they created their own opportunity because, they were so convincing and, just determined. And young girls, I'm talking like 15, 16, and that first generation, they all graduated from universities and they're doing incredible, work now, and the program is still going on. So that leadership, that they demonstrated is a big part of everything that's happening at SEED. And I talk about it too, even from a purely practical standpoint. If, for example, when we, launch the office in NBA Africa, I said with a stated initial goal of accessibility, getting more young people to bounce the ball instead of kicking, growing a fan base. You can't do that by ignoring more than half the population. And then it so happened that basketball, women's basketball, is extremely popular in a lot of places. And I always said this, my inspiration really, in what grew my interest in playing basketball was not only, maybe some of the video I've seen in the 80s, these great athletes in the US, because I wasn't exposed that much, but back in those days, it's not like everybody had a television or like how today everybody has a smartphone where you can watch league pass and all that. But the Senegalese women's national team that won actually 11, Afrobasket championship, then they were legendary. And these ladies were incredible. And I remember a couple of them were actually highly educated. There was one that was a medical doctor, others studying as pharmacists, and they're playing incredible. So that was always an inspiration. For me, I just think that it's paramount, right, to be inclusive and to make sure that we foster an environment where girls have the opportunity to achieve, equally as boys do. And when given the opportunity, it's been my experience that they do much better, and quicker and more focused. So yeah, I think, as we stay passionate and committed about development and economic development, I mean by that, and growth for the continent, so the women will play a critical role, and we have to create a enabling environment to make sure that, they have everything to be successful.
That was amazing. We do have one more question, but we'll hold it for another day, for another conversation. Thank you so much. I think there were 500 drop the mic moments that we have, just of you sharing and imparting your wisdom upon us. And we can't say thank you enough. We know the time is limited, but we can't say thank you enough. We really appreciate you for just being here. Emmett?
Yeah, I know. I was so silent for the whole thing because I was just so entranced and listening. Like, you're like just an incredibly good person, and it's always refreshing, as simple as that is, everything he has to say. But seriously, thank you for taking the time. You have a billion other things to do, so I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you both. This has been fun, and thank you for the opportunity to share our story. And again, keep in touch with the Basketball Africa League, because it's coming, and it's coming big, and we want to make sure that we keep you all looked in. And I love that story with your research paper, and that was inspiring. And I'm pretty sure I'll let Deche know. Chinny, continue the great work, and please stay in touch. And hope you guys will join us as we launch season 2 for the BAL. I'll make sure to keep you all posted.
Yeah, you can get us some tickets. That's totally fine.
Yeah, we're cool with flying straight to the continent.
You will have VIP seating.
You heard it right there, folks.
Right, you heard it. You heard it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening and joining us on this brilliant and amazing journey. And might I say, a journey full and packed of wisdom. If you like what you heard, we encourage you to like and subscribe. We've got so many more brilliant and amazing conversations and stories to come in the coming weeks. Like I always say, share with a friend. Leave a review like Sheepdog on July 7th, 15th. The podcast strikes this perfect blend of serious and thoughtful commentary about meaningful topics with a levity and authenticity that derived from infectious personalities of the host and their hilarious and accessible conversational chemistry. I don't even know who wrote that, but whoever wrote that was a genius.
Yeah. Probably very attractive too, but
very attractive. Maybe his name might be Emmett Shepard. Don't know. But Emmett, what about today's show? Oh,
dude, I am in awe. I'm sweating. I'm sweating that he was even there. Like,
I know
he was thebomb.com. Is that your line? I can't say that, right? I can't say that.
You can't say. Oh my goodness! Wow.
But no, I could have listened to him for hours. He's just, as I said, simply just a really good person.
Good human.
You just want to be around those people all the time.
Yeah. Wow.
If you want to learn more about what me and Chinny do, you can visit you can start by visiting the PeacePlayers website and following us on social media, mostly at, I think, PeacePlayers International, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, no, I'm not. And those are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, Tumblr, MySpace, Visco. Just kidding, those last 3. Nobody uses those anymore, people. Nobody does. It's still funny.
Right.
Chinny, you know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say. I feel like